Joining me now is the Republican chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio. Chairman Turner, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Kristen, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Let's start with the breaking news overnight, those strikes by Iran against Israel that were largely intercepted. What is your reaction this morning?
Well, obviously, the United States had advance notice that this was going to occur and worked with Israel in preparations. I was briefed by the CIA director Friday of the preparations and the information that the United States was receiving. I think John Kirby, though, articulated very well, due to your questions, the unfortunate, I think, fallacies in the Biden administration's policies. The United States and Israel jointly developed missile defense technology that went to work last night, and it was proven to be successful, and it is de-escalatory. It gives us space to be able to make appropriate decisions. But unfortunately, the Biden administration's view is that if you use missile defense, an attack didn't happen. That's the way they reacted to the over 100 attacks that have occurred on U.S. troops from terrorist groups and organizations in Iraq and Syria, resulting in 3 deaths of American troops in Jordan, all by Iranian-backed groups and organizations. I think the administration needs to take seriously that this attack has happened. It's unprecedented, and certainly it needs to be viewed as an escalation. This is an escalating conflict.
Well, Congressman, very quickly, though, I do have to push back because, of course, those attacks that you referenced, the United States did carry out counterattacks, more than 100 of them. And then those attacks by those Iranian-backed groups did come to a close. But I do want to ask you what you think should happen next.
That's honestly true, but so what the Biden administration said is if there are deaths, if American troops are hit, they're going to respond. Over 100 attacks on American troops, they did not respond. In this instance, you just heard John Kirby articulate that the defense was successful, and then almost as if a dismissal of the fact that Iran has attacked Israel directly.
Well, and what he said was that he does not want to see this escalate into a wider war. So let me put this question to you. And again, the United States did respond to those attacks with more than 100 counterattacks. Israel is saying, the War Cabinet Minister, Benny Gantz, just said, we will exact a price from Iran in the fashion and timing that is right for us. Do you expect Israel to respond? Should Israel respond?
Well, even though these attacks are unprecedented coming directly from Iran, Israel has been under attack by Iran for decades. They fund and train Hezbollah. They fund and train Hamas, which undertook the October 7th attacks into Israel that were just vicious in the number of deaths and in the manner in which it was executed, all as a result of groups trained, funded, and given weapons by Iran. So this has already been an ongoing conflict where Israel understands that they have been under siege and under attack by Iran. It's the first time, though, that they have attacked directly from Iran, and certainly this is an escalation. I think John Kirby is wrong to be able to say we don't want an escalating conflict. It is already escalating, and the administration needs to respond.
So you believe this has already become a wider war within the Middle East this morning? That is what you are saying?
Over 300 weapons were shot from Iran at Israel. This is an escalating conflict. The administration, because we were successful, because we invested in missile defense technology with Israel, the administration is acting like, well, done. We defended Israel against these attacks. This is not escalating. This is escalating.
Well, John Kirby wasn't necessarily saying done. He was saying let's not escalate this further. But let me ask you about what your Republican colleagues are saying, because I want to get specific about what you would like to see, Congressman. As you know, some of your Republican colleagues are saying this calls for the United States to respond directly by striking Iran. Would you support that? Should the United States go on offense and strike Iran, engage directly with Iran?
I think what the United States needs to do is to understand that Iran has already taken the next step, of understanding that they get a free pass for attacking Israel directly from Iranian soil from the United States. And
so is that a yes? Is that a yes, Congressman? You're saying
I believe that they will do it again. And I think the United States needs to make clear, which this administration has not, that if they continue to attack Israel, that yes, they will get a response from Iran. Iran is in a very vulnerable position. It's first off, it should never be allowed to be a nuclear weapon state. This administration gave it $6 billion to release detainees. It has continued
hold on, those assets were frozen. Congressman, as you know, those were Iranian funds, and the assets are now frozen. Let me ask you this. This
administration permitted Iran to have access to $6 billion that it did not have access to before.
But those assets are frozen and haven't made their way to Iran, as you know, Congressman.
This administration has continued to to fail to recognize that Iran is an adversary. It's an adversary to Israel. It is coordinating Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis in Yemen, and attacks on commercial waterways. The administration continues to look the other way and fail to recognize that this is escalating, and they're going to have to step up to the plate.
The administration has done what you've said that they should do, which is to warn that there will be countermeasures if Iran continues to escalate. I'm asking you, what should be done right now? Donald Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, called on Israel to destroy Iran's nuclear weapons program. Would you support that?
Well, first off, Israel shouldn't, and the United States have made it very clear that Iran should never be permitted to become a nuclear weapon state. This administration, however, has been very slow to step up to that declaration. They have instead worked to try to engage Iran and it failed to see it as an adversary, as really a malicious force that is destabilizing the Middle East. While Iran was destabilizing the Middle East, they continued to work with Iran, and I think they've emboldened Iran.
Well,
this administration's failing to say there is a red line. There should be a red line.
Congressman, after Donald Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, Iran is now closer to developing a nuclear weapon. But can you just answer my question? Would you support that? Would you support Israel targeting Iran's nuclear weapons program? Just on that question, would you support Israel doing that?
Well, and as I was answering to you before, Iran is very vulnerable, both in its nuclear weapon sites, but even in its weapons production sites, those weapons that are showing up on the battlefield of Ukraine in the hands of Russians, and also its oil logistics and export facilities. It is in a very vulnerable position. If Israel sees that it has to rise to the occasion to attack Iran directly in order to protect itself, then certainly I think the United States supports Israel's right to defend itself. You have a country, Iran, that is destabilizing the Middle East, continues to produce weapons capabilities that they're even exporting to Europe. They have their proxies that are attacking Israel, shipping commercial lanes. They are escalating while this administration continues to deny it.
Congressman, bottom line me here. Do you want to see U.S. military action against Iran or Israel take a countermeasure against Iran?
I don't think at this point that the United States should be engaged in a military action directly at Iran. But I do believe that if this administration fails to step up to the plate and understand that we have an escalating conflict and make it clear to Iran that there are red lines and that the United States will defend Israel and will not allow Iran to become a weapon state, that we will be in a broader conflict and we will have less options. Their failure to box in Iran and let them understand that there will be consequences make it more dangerous every day.
As you know, this aid package that would provide aid to Israel, but also Ukraine, has been held up, has been blocked by former President Trump. Do you want to see the House Speaker bring this to the floor for a vote this week? And has he given you any assurances that he will do so?
Well, it's not been held up by Donald Trump. First off, let's be clear. It's being held up in the House by debates and deliberations in the House of Representatives. I think that the Speaker has been very clear. He supports Ukraine funding. He supports funding for Israel. He supports the Asia package. It's part of the National Security Supplemental. And he has made it clear that he sees that the path is for that to come to the House floor this week. I think it will have overwhelming support, both the Ukraine, Israel, and Asia packages, not just because of what's happened with Iran escalating the conflict in the Middle East, but because these are allies that need and deserve our support.
As you know, Donald Trump has been on the sidelines saying he doesn't want to see that aid go to Ukraine unless it's in the form of a loan. But just very quickly, do you expect it to get a vote this week, Congressman?
I do, and I expect it to pass. And by the way, Donald Trump had said on the humanitarian, the support to the Ukrainian government, on the weapons, the military support, everyone has been very much on the side of understanding that we're at a critical point. Russia's beginning to gain ground. Ukraine is beginning to lose the ability to defend itself. The United States must step up and provide Ukraine the weapons that they need. And I think we're going to see overwhelming support for that in the House this week.
All right. Chairman Turner, I have a lot more questions, but we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining me.
Kristen, thank you so much.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.